I'm gonna spit out a few names. Give me a brief history on your experience with him. Okay? Don Brown.
Don Brown, most fun guy to ever go to a movie audition with. He and I went out to a Hollywood audition on a movie, and he and I put on a show for the cast, and Don and I didn't care who got the part. We were just happy to be there, bouncing off each other, and we put on a full entertaining show for the crew there, and just a super nice, humble guy, and can't say enough good things about Don. Just a wonderful guy to skate with in all circumstances.
Perfect. Okay. Primo Desiderio.
Primo was a showman. He was the guy that, was going down to SeaWorld, putting on shows, and he had that, showbiz style. He went out and put a lot of energy into it. It had a dance style that really appealed to a lot of people in the audience, and he elevated skateboarding through his skateboarding. And so he was able to share the stoke, and like everybody has a different style, he had one that appealed to large masses, especially in the public arena.
Pierre-Andre.
Pierre-Andre, a very humble fellow, a guy who was an innovator. He would come up with one handstand, kickflip variations, strong, but you'd never know that by looking at him. So what was underneath all of him in his character was much more than what the average person saw on the surface.
Kevin Harris.
Kevin Harris. I don't think I've ever seen Kevin not smile. He was a guy that just loved skateboarding, and it was obvious in everything he did. He poured his life out as an offering for the sport, and he elevated skateboarding not only across Canada, but throughout the world. And Kevin's just a great guy to work with.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with this one. Hans Lindgren?
I didn't know Hans very well.
No? Okay. Rodney Mullen.
Rodney Mullen, a unique skater, comes from a totally different perspective than most people. He looked at skateboarding of what was existing, and he would take the tricks that were being done, and he would mix and match them and then perform them in reverse style, and he made a style of his own. So artistically and creatively, Rodney really took skateboarding to a new level. He made it much more popular and acceptable. Even for those people who didn't practice the freestyle, they soon integrated him into their social circles, and Rodney was able to perpetuate the popularity of freestyle skateboarding into arenas that most typical freestylers couldn't reach.
Daryl Grogan.
Daryl Grogan was one of the most humble, virtuous, high character people I've known. Even in a competition, he would forfeit his own win to uplift other people around him. He never looked at skateboarding as being skateboarding would serve him for his own benefit. He always saw it as a platform where he could uplift others. And he was one of the most virtuous skaters I've ever known.
Keith Butterfield.
Keith Butterfield. Thank you for your service in the Marines, Keith. Keith had the butter flip. Thank you for influencing a lot of our skating and making it more difficult for us to get our routines perfect. But Keith was always fun, and he and I know up at the 86 World's Fair contest at Vancouver, he and I shared a lot of time together. He and I are both Christians, and we just went through and had a lot to share with each other, bouncing off each other, had a great time with Keith.
Yeah, Keith is amazing. Steve Rocco.
Steve Rocco was a unique character. I remember when I worked for Vision, I was working with Everett Rosecrans as team managers, and when we were at the factory and Steve Rocco would show up, there was a voice yelling through the factory, "Hi, guard everything, Steve Rocco's in the factory, don't let him load up the back of his van with all our product." And so Steve very quickly got a reputation for the worse or bad, I don't know.
Gunter Mokulys.
Gunter is when I first met Gunter, he's incredible. First off, 12-time world champion. Here this guy's 55 years old, written numerous books. He's got, I don't know how many wins, 60 wins in contests. The guy has a competitive record that no one has come close to. And for the longest time, he didn't smile. Well, we changed that. We got him to smile. And I remember we were competing each other up at the Vancouver contest at the World Roundup, and we'd swap out our equipment because certain parts of his board he liked, and certain parts of my equipment he'd like, and I'd say, hey, yeah, go ahead, use my equipment. He'd say, go ahead, use my equipment. And there was no competitiveness. We wanted each other to perform at our best level. And so Gunter's always been a great friend, and for having him, come up and smile, and actually he came to the house to visit, and it's one of the funnest things I've ever done.
Isamu Yamamoto.
Isamu Yamamoto, he sees things that most people don't. This fellow from Japan, a young kid at 10 years old, came up to the World Roundup, and he competed flawlessly. He competed against Gunter Mokulys, and because he was so fast, he turned in so many tricks and gained so many points that he beat Gunter. And so the judging system had to be modified in such a way as that it recognized both styles. But Isamu for himself, he throws these flawless, very, very difficult tricks, and he very, very rarely misses, if ever. And for someone to be that consistent with such a high level of degree of difficulty is just incredible. So hats off to Isamu, super nice guy. He and his father come to a lot of the competitions, and I just love their family.